The shuttle landed with a soft thud on the dry ground of Kepler 442c. Dust clouds rose around the metal craft as its engines slowly stopped humming. Commander Lisa Martinez stepped out first, her heavy boots making crunching sounds on the cracked surface below. She looked around at the empty landscape that stretched far into the distance. Nothing grew here. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. Behind her, 3 other people climbed down from the shuttle. Dr. Kevin Brooks carried a large bagful of tools for finding water. His face showed doubt as he looked at the barren rocks around them. Lieutenant Jake Morrison checked his weapon and scanned the area for any signs of danger. Dr. Amy Chun pulled out her scanner and began looking for any tiny forms of life. Even though everyone knew she would find nothing, Lisa pulled off her helmet and breathed the thin air. The planet's atmosphere was barely good enough for humans to survive without full life support. The air tasted dry and empty, like dust mixed with metal. Above them, the orange sun looked smaller than Earth's sun, giving everything a strange, dim light. Command said this place has been dead for over 200 years, Jake said, setting down his equipment case. No water, no plants, no animals. Nothing at all. Amy waved her scanner in wide circles. The readings are exactly what we expected. No biological signatures anywhere. The soil is mostly minerals and rock dust. I don't know why they sent me on this mission. Kevin opened his water-finding equipment and began setting up his machines. Sometimes the instruments miss things. There might be underground water sources that the satellites couldn't detect from space. Lisa walked a few steps away from the group. Something felt different about this place. She couldn't explain what it was, but the planet seemed to be calling to her somehow. She had felt similar things before on other worlds, but never this strong. It was like a whisper in her mind, too quiet to understand but too clear to ignore. What the 4 humans didn't know was that they were being watched. High above them, hidden in the rocks of a tall cliff, 3 different alien species had set up observation posts. They had been watching this dead planet for many years, waiting to see what the humans would do. The Xanthari were beings made of living crystal. They looked like walking gemstones that sparkled in the orange sunlight. Their leader, a tall blue crystal named Kethvar, watched the humans through advanced viewing equipment. The Xanthari thought in pure logic and mathematics. To them, this planet was worthless because their calculations showed 0 chance of finding anything useful here. The humans waste their time, Kethvar said to his companions. His voice sounded like musical chimes. Our instruments have scanned every inch of this world. There's no water, no life, no reason to be here. In another hidden position, the Vectal warriors crouched behind large boulders. They were tall, strong beings with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. Their commander, Draktul, held a powerful weapon. As he watched the humans through his scope, the Vecti were proud fighters who respected strength and conquest. They saw this mission as proof that humans were weak and foolish. Look at them, Draktul growled to his soldiers. They come to a dead rock hoping to find treasure. They are not warriors. They are dreamers who will fail and leave like all the others. The third group of watchers was the most mysterious. The Nisari were ancient beings who had lived among the stars for thousands of years. They looked like tall, thin people with pale skin and large, knowing eyes. Their eldest member, a woman named Sithnal, sat in meditation as she observed the humans. Unlike the others, she felt something unusual about this mission. There is something different about these humans, she whispered to her companions. The female leader carries something within her spirit that I have not seen in their species before. Lisa continued walking around the landing area. Her team called out to her, asking where she wanted to set up their base camp. But she barely heard them. The feeling in her mind was getting stronger. It was pulling her toward a particular direction, toward a low area between 2 hills about half a mile away. She had always been different from other humans. As a child, she could find lost things when others couldn't. As a teenager, she knew when storms were coming before the weather reports announced them. In her military training, she could sense danger before her instruments detected it. Her superiors called it good instincts, but Lisa knew it was something more. The four humans spent the rest of the day setting up their temporary base. They put up a small shelter, organized their equipment, and prepared to begin their survey. Work the next morning. As the orange sun began to set, the sky turned deep purple and the first stars appeared. Lisa sat outside the shelter, looking toward the hills where she felt the strange pull. Kevin joined her, holding 2 cups of hot coffee. "You're thinking about something," he said, handing her a cup. "I can see it in your face. What's on your mind?" Lisa took a sip of the warm drink. "This planet isn't completely dead. I can feel it." Kevin looked surprised. "Feel it how?" "All our instruments show nothing. The soil samples are completely sterile. There's no water signature anywhere." "I know what the instruments say," Lisa replied. "But they're wrong. There's something here. Something important." Jake emerged from the shelter, checking his night vision equipment. "The perimeter is secure. No movement anywhere. This place is as quiet as a tomb." Amy came out last, carrying her biological scanner. "I've been running continuous scans all day. Not even a single bacteria? This is the most lifeless place I've ever seen." But Lisa shook her head. "Tomorrow I want to explore that area between the hills, the valley about half a mile north of here." Her 3 companions looked at each other with concern. Kevin pulled out a small computer and checked their mission parameters. "The survey plan calls for us to work in a grid pattern starting from the landing site. Command wants us to cover the designated area systematically." "Plans can change," Lisa said firmly. "That valley is where we need to go." Up in their hidden positions, the 3 alien species listened to the humans' conversation through their advanced hearing devices. The Xanthari calculated the probability of finding anything useful in the valley the human woman mentioned. Their computers showed it was the most unlikely place on the entire planet to contain water or life. The Vectile warriors laughed quietly among themselves. They thought the human female was leading her team toward certain failure. It would be entertaining to watch them waste their time digging in empty ground, but the Nasari elder, Sith now, felt a chill run through her ancient body. She had lived long enough to recognize the signs of something significant about to happen. The human woman's instincts were pointing toward something that their advanced technology couldn't detect. This had happened before in Nasari history, but not for many centuries. As the night grew darker, Lisa lay in her sleeping bag inside the shelter. Her 3 companions slept soundly, tired from their long journey and the day's work. But Lisa remained awake, staring up at the ceiling. The feeling in her mind was stronger now, almost urgent. It was telling her that tomorrow would change everything. She didn't know that 3 alien species were watching her every move. She didn't know that they had dismissed this planet as worthless many years ago. She didn't know that what she was about to discover would shake the foundations of everything these ancient civilizations believed about life, death, and the nature of existence itself. All she knew was that something was calling to her from that valley, something that had been waiting patiently for someone like her to arrive. Tomorrow, she would answer that call, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The next morning came with the same orange sunlight that painted everything in strange colors. Lisa woke up before the others and stepped outside the shelter. The air was still and quiet, but the feeling in her mind was stronger than ever. It pulled at her like a rope, leading her toward the valley she had spotted the day before. Kevin was the first to join her, carrying his morning coffee and a piece of dried fruit. "You're up early," he said, looking toward the hills where Lisa kept. "Orange? Still thinking about that valley?" "More than thinking," Lisa replied. "We're going there today. I know the mission plan says something different, but I'm changing it." Amy emerged from the shelter, stretching and yawning. "Good morning, everyone. I ran my scanners all night just to be sure. Still nothing. This planet is completely empty of life." Jake came out last, already dressed in his full gear and carrying his weapons. "I checked the perimeter twice. No movement, no sounds, no signs of anything dangerous. This place is as safe as it is dead." Lisa gathered her team around their small table. She spread out a map of the area on the surface. "Here's what we're going to do today? We're going to that valley. She pointed to a spot on the map between two small hills. I want to do a detailed survey there. Kevin looked at the map and frowned. Lisa, that area wasn't marked as a priority site. Command gave us specific coordinates to check first. The satellite data shows much better mineral deposits in other areas. The satellite data is wrong, Lisa said firmly. There's something important in that valley. I can feel it. Amy picked up her scanner and checked it again. I'm not getting any readings from that direction. No biological signatures, no unusual mineral compositions, nothing that would make it special. Jake studied the map with his tactical eye. The valley is defensible, I'll give you that. Good sight lines, natural barriers. But there's no strategic reason to go there first. Lisa stood up and began packing her equipment. I'm not asking for your opinions, I'm giving you an order. We're going to that valley today, and we're going to dig. Her three companions looked at each other with worry. They had worked with Lisa for 2 years and trusted her judgment, but this seemed different. She was acting on pure instinct, ignoring all the scientific data and mission protocols. Unknown to them, the 3 alien species were listening to every word. In their hidden observation posts, the beings were recording the humans' conversation and trying to understand their strange behavior. Kethvar, the Xanthari leader, consulted his crystal computers. The probability of finding anything useful in that valley is 0.0001%. The human female is leading her team toward certain failure. His companion, a smaller crystal being named Vethrin, flickered with confusion. Why would she ignore the logical approach? Humans are supposed to be more rational than this. In the Vectol position, Draktul watched through his scope as the humans prepared to leave their camp. The female shows the foolishness of her species. She abandons proven methods to follow wild dreams. One of his warriors, Grakvel, growled in agreement. Perhaps we should reveal ourselves and show them the futility of their quest. It would be a kindness to end their suffering quickly. But Draktul shook his head. No, let them fail on their own. It will be more instructive to watch their defeat. The Nisari elder Sithnel felt differently. She had lived for over 3,000 years and had seen many impossible things become reality. There is something about this human female that reminds me of the ancient prophecies. She moves with purpose that comes from deep wisdom, not foolishness. Her young companion, Lythkor, looked puzzled. But Elder, our instruments show nothing in that valley. It is the most barren spot on this dead world. Sithnal closed her large eyes and reached out with her mental abilities. Instruments cannot detect everything, young one. Some truths can only be sensed by those who have learned to listen with more than their ears. The human team finished packing and began walking toward the valley. Lisa led the way, moving with confidence across the rough ground. The others followed, carrying their heavy equipment and wondering what they would find. The walk took them about 30 minutes across the cracked surface of the planet. As they got closer to the valley, Lisa's feeling grew stronger. It was like a warm current flowing through her mind, guiding her steps toward a specific location. The valley was small, maybe 50 yards across and twice as long. It was surrounded by low hills covered in broken rocks and mineral deposits. Nothing grew here, just like everywhere else on the planet, but to Lisa, it felt different. It felt alive somehow, even though her eyes showed her only empty ground. She stopped at the center of the valley, at a spot that looked exactly like all the others. The ground was cracked and dry, covered with small stones and dust, but this was the place. She knew it with absolute certainty. Here, she said, pointing at the ground beneath her feet. We dig here. Kevin set down his equipment and pulled out his water detection devices. He turned them on and moved them around the area where Lisa was standing. The machines made quiet beeping sounds, but they showed no signs of underground water. Lisa, I'm not getting any readings. The ground-penetrating radar shows solid rock about 6 feet down. There's no water table, no underground streams, nothing. Activated her biological scanner and swept it across the same area. Same results on my end. No organic compounds, no signs that anything ever lived here. Jake examined the site from a security perspective. The ground is stable enough for digging, but I don't see any reason to dig here rather than anywhere else. Lisa knelt down and placed her hands on the dry earth. The feeling in her mind became even stronger when she touched the ground. It was like touching a sleeping giant, something vast and powerful that was waiting to wake up. "Start digging," she ordered, "right here." Her team exchanged glances but began unpacking their excavation equipment. They had portable shovels, a small drilling machine, and tools for analyzing whatever they might find. If Lisa wanted to dig here, they would support her, even if they didn't understand why the alien watchers were fascinated by this development. All three species had advanced scanning technology that could detect water and life forms from great distances. Their equipment was far more sophisticated than anything the humans carried. Yet their instruments showed nothing unusual about the spot where the humans were about to dig. Kethvar ran calculations through his crystal processors. The humans are about to waste valuable time and energy on an empty patch of ground. This will prove the superiority of logical thinking over emotional impulses. Draktul adjusted his viewing equipment to get a better look at the digging site. Let them scratch in the dirt like animals. When they find nothing, they will understand the weakness of hope without strength. But Sithnow felt a strange anticipation building in her ancient heart. Something is about to happen. Something that will change our understanding of this world. Lisa picked up a shovel and began digging. The ground was hard and dry, but she worked with determination. Kevin, Amy, and Jake joined her, taking turns with the tools. They dug slowly but steadily, removing dirt and rocks from a hole that grew. Deeper with each passing hour, 1 foot down, they found only more dry earth and small stones. 2 feet down, the same. 3 feet down, Kevin's instruments still showed nothing unusual. Amy's scanners detected no signs of life or water, but Lisa kept digging. The feeling in her mind told her to keep going, to push deeper into the ground. She could sense something waiting below. Something that had been hidden for a very long time. At 4 feet deep, Jake's shovel hit something that wasn't rock or dirt. It made a different sound, like metal striking glass. He called the others over. "To look, there's something here," he said, brushing dirt away from the object. "It's smooth and hard, but it doesn't look like stone." Lisa jumped down into the hole and began clearing away more dirt with her hands. What she found made her heart race with excitement. It was a smooth, curved surface that seemed to glow with a faint inner light. It felt warm to the touch, even though the air around them was cool. "What is it?" Amy asked, leaning over the edge of the hole. Lisa continued digging around the object, revealing more of its surface. It appeared to be some kind of natural basin, perfectly shaped and lined with the same smooth, glowing material. "I don't know what it is," Lisa said, still digging. "But this is what we were meant to find." High above them, the alien watchers stared in amazement. Their instruments were going crazy, suddenly detecting energy signatures that hadn't been there moments before. The smooth surface was giving off readings that none of their science could explain. Something impossible was about to happen on this dead world, and a human woman with strange instincts had found it by following her heart instead of her instruments. Lisa continued digging around the strange glowing basin. Her hands moved quickly, clearing away centuries of dirt and dust. The smooth surface underneath felt warm and alive, like touching the skin of some great sleeping creature. The faint glow grew brighter as more of the basin was revealed. Kevin jumped down into the hole beside her, his water detection equipment beeping wildly. "Lisa, I'm getting readings now." "Something is happening down here. The instruments are showing energy signatures I've never seen before." Amy leaned over the edge of the hole, her scanner held out toward the glowing surface. "Biological activity is starting to register." "But that's impossible. Nothing can just suddenly come to life like this." Jake kept watch around the area, but his eyes kept returning to the hole. "Whatever that thing is, it's definitely not natural rock. It looks like it was made by someone, but there's no record of any civilization ever living on this planet." Lisa cleared away the last of the dirt and stepped back to look at what they had found. The basin was perfectly round, about 6 feet across and 3 feet deep. Its surface was smooth as glass but felt warm to the touch. The glow came from within, the material itself pulsing gently like a slow heartbeat. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and it's been waiting for us." As if responding to her words, something amazing began to happen. A small drop of water appeared at the bottom of the basin. Then another. Then a thin stream began flowing from somewhere within the glowing walls. Kevin stared in shock. "That's impossible. Water can't just appear from nothing. It has to come from somewhere." The water continued to flow, clear and pure, filling the bottom of the basin. Amy quickly pulled out her testing equipment and lowered a sample tube into the growing pool. "We need to analyze this immediately. Water doesn't just materialize on a dead planet." Lisa knelt beside the basin and cupped some of the water in her hands. It felt different from ordinary water. It was cleaner, somehow more alive. When she brought it close to her face, she could smell something fresh and sweet, like spring rain on growing plants. "Lisa, don't drink that," Kevin warned. "We don't know what it is or where it came from. It could be dangerous." But Lisa felt no fear. The water called to her just as strongly as the location had. She brought her cupped hands to her lips and took a small sip. The taste was incredible, like the purest water she had ever experienced, but with something extra that made her feel more awake and alive. "It's safe," she said, taking another sip. "It's more than safe, it's perfect." Amy finished her first analysis and looked at the results with amazement. "This is pure water, but it contains minerals I've never seen before. The molecular structure is normal, but there are trace elements that don't match anything in our databases." The water level in the basin continued to rise. Soon it was flowing gently over the edges and creating small streams that spread across the floor of the valley. Wherever the water touched the ground, something wonderful happened. Kevin noticed it first. "Look at the soil where the water is flowing. It's changing color. It's turning darker, richer." Amy pointed her scanner at the wet ground. "I'm reading biological activity. Microscopic organisms are coming to life in the soil." But they weren't there before, I'm certain of it. Lisa stood up and walked around the basin, watching the water spread across the valley floor. Where it flowed, the dead ground began to show signs of life. Tiny green shoots pushed up through the soil. Small flowers bloomed in patches of color. The air itself seemed fresher and cleaner. "This is a miracle," she said quietly. "A real miracle." Hi. Above them, the alien watchers were in complete panic. Their instruments were showing impossible readings. Life was appearing where none had existed for centuries. Water was flowing from solid rock. The laws of physics seemed to be breaking down. Keth-VAR, the Xanthari leader, ran calculation after calculation through his crystal processors. "This cannot be happening. Our science shows that matter cannot be created from nothing. Water cannot appear without a source." His companion, Vethrin, flickered with confusion and fear. "The readings are getting stronger. The entire valley is becoming alive. How is this possible?" Draktul, the Vectal commander, gripped his weapon tighter as he watched the impossible scene below. "The humans have done something. They have used some kind of technology we don't understand. This is a trick, a deception." But his warrior, Grakvel, shook his head. "No, Commander, our sensors show no artificial energy sources. No machines, no technology. This is something else entirely." The Nisari elder, Sithnal, felt tears running down her ancient face. The prophecies were true. The water-bringers have come. The dead worlds will live again. Her young companion, Lythkor, looked frightened. "Elder, what does this mean? How can the humans do things that we cannot?" Sithnal closed her eyes and reached out with her mental abilities. "They are not doing this, young one. They are allowing it to happen. There is a difference." Back in the valley, Lisa was experiencing changes of her own. The water from the basin had done something to her. She could feel her senses becoming sharper, her awareness expanding. She could sense the life awakening all around her, could feel the planet itself stirring from its long sleep. Kevin tested the water again and again, but his instruments couldn't explain what was happening. The mineral content keeps changing. It's like the water is adapting, becoming exactly what the soil needs to support life. Amy was documenting everything with her scanner, recording the impossible transformation taking place around them. The biological activity is spreading beyond the areas where the water has flowed. It's like the entire ecosystem is remembering how to be alive. Jake remained on guard, but he was also amazed by what he was seeing. The whole valley is turning green. Plants are growing faster than they should be able to grow. This is beyond anything I've ever seen. Lisa walked to the edge of the valley and looked out at the barren landscape beyond. She could sense something calling to her from the distance, other places on the planet where the same miracle could happen. The well was just the beginning. "We need to contact command," Kevin said. "They need to know what we found here." But Lisa shook her head. "Not yet. First, we need to understand what's happening. And we need to protect it." As if responding to her concern, she became aware of the alien watchers for the first time. She couldn't see them, but she could feel their presence in the rocks above. 3 different groups, all watching, all trying to understand what they were seeing. "We're not alone," she said to her team. "There are others here. They've been watching." U.S. Jake immediately raised his weapon and scanned the surrounding hills. "Where? How many?" Lisa placed a gentle hand on his arm. "They're not enemies. They're just curious. They've been watching this planet for a long time, waiting for something to happen." Amy looked nervous. "Are you sure they're not dangerous?" Lisa felt the changes in her mind and body growing stronger. The water had awakened something in her, something that connected her to the planet and to all the life forms around it. She could sense the aliens' emotions, their confusion and fear and wonder. "They're afraid," she said. "They don't understand what's happening any more than we do. But they're not going to hurt us." The water continued to flow from the basin, spreading life throughout the valley. The impossible well had become a source of miracles, transforming death into life with every drop that flowed from its glowing walls. Kevin sat down beside the basin and watched the water level rise. "This is going to change everything. When the scientific community learns about this, when the government finds out what we've discovered here." Lisa nodded, understanding the implications. "The whole galaxy is going to want to know how this happened. And we're going to have to decide what to do with that knowledge." As the day wore on, the valley continued to transform. What had been dead ground that morning was now a small oasis of life. Plants grew in impossible profusion. The air smelled of flowers and fresh earth. The sound of flowing water echoed off the surrounding hills. But the most remarkable change was in Lisa herself. She could feel herself becoming something more than human, something that could bridge the gap between species and understanding. The well had chosen her, and she was ready to accept whatever that meant. Above them, the alien watchers continued their vigil, no longer certain of anything they had believed about life, death, and the nature of existence. The humans had done the impossible, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 days passed since the well began flowing. The valley had become a small paradise filled with green plants, colorful flowers, and the sound of running water. Lisa spent most of her time sitting beside the glowing basin, feeling the changes happening inside her mind and body. The water had done more than just quench her thirst. She could now sense things she had never felt before. The life force of every plant in the valley pulsed in her awareness. She could feel the emotions of her team members without looking at their faces. Most importantly, she could sense the alien watchers in the hills above, their confusion and fear growing stronger each day. Kevin had sent daily reports to command, but he kept the details vague. He told them they had found an underground water source and were studying its properties. He didn't mention the impossible way the water appeared or the miraculous transformation of the valley. Lisa had asked him to wait until they understood more. Amy documented everything with her scientific equipment. Plants that should have taken months to grow were reaching full size in days. The soil had become rich and fertile, supporting life forms that shouldn't exist on this planet. Her instruments showed biological activity that defied every law of science she knew. Jake maintained security around the perimeter, but his job had become more complex. He could see movement in the hills around them, shadows that shifted when no one should be there. His military training told him they were being watched, but Lisa insisted the watchers were not dangerous. On the morning of the fourth day, Lisa made a decision that would change everything. She stood up from beside the well and looked toward the hills where she sensed the strongest alien presence. "It's time," she said to her team. "They need to see what we found here. They need to understand that this is meant for everyone." Kevin looked worried. "Lisa, we don't know anything about these watchers. We don't know their intentions or their capabilities. It could be dangerous to make contact," Amy agreed with Kevin. "My readings show at least 3 different groups out there. They have technology far more advanced than ours. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already." Jake checked his weapons and scanned the hills with his binoculars. "I can see movement up there. They're definitely watching us. But Amy's right, if they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already." Lisa felt the changes in her mind growing stronger. The water had awakened something in her that connected her to all forms of consciousness. She could sense the aliens' thoughts, their wonderment at what they were seeing, their struggle to understand how humans could create miracles. "They're not our enemies," she said firmly. "They're seekers, just like us. They've been studying this planet for years, trying to understand why it died. Now they're seeing it come back to life, and they need to know how." She walked to the center of the valley and raised her voice, speaking to the hidden watchers in the hills. "We know you're there. We know you've been watching. You don't have to hide anymore. Come down and see what we found. Come down and share the water." For several minutes, nothing happened. The valley remained quiet except for the sound of flowing water and the gentle movement of plants in the breeze. Lisa's team stood ready, unsure what would happen next. Then, slowly, a figure appeared on the ridge above them. It was tall and crystalline, catching the orange sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. The being moved carefully down the hillside, its crystal body chiming softly with each step. Kethvar, the Xanthari leader, approached the humans with caution. His logical mind told him this was dangerous, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He had studied this dead planet for many years, and now he needed to understand how it had come back to life. "Greetings, humans," he said, his voice sounding like musical chimes. "I am Kethvar of the Xanthari. We have been observing your activities with great interest." Lisa stepped forward to meet him, feeling no fear despite his alien appearance. "Welcome, Kethvar. I'm Lisa Martinez. We're honored to meet you." Kevin, Amy, and Jake watched in amazement as their commander calmly greeted the crystal alien. They had trained for first contact scenarios, but nothing had prepared them for this moment. Kethvar looked around the transformed valley, his crystal eyes reflecting the green plants and flowing water. This was impossible 3 days ago. Our instruments detected no water, no life, no possibility of transformation. How did you accomplish this? Lisa gestured toward the glowing well. "We didn't accomplish anything. We just found what was already here, waiting to be discovered." Before Kethvar could respond, another figure appeared on a different hill. This one was larger and more intimidating, with gray skin and powerful muscles. Draktul, the Vectal commander, descended toward them with his weapon ready but not raised. "So, the crystals have revealed themselves," Draktul growled. "I should have known the Xanthari would not resist the chance to study something new." Kethvar turned toward the Vectal warrior. "Draktul, I might have expected the Vectile to be watching as well. Your people have always been interested in human activities." Lisa looked between the two aliens, sensing the tension between their species. "You know each other?" "We have encountered each other many times over the centuries," Draktul replied. "The Xanthari think too much and we act too quickly, but we both respect strength when we see it." From a third direction, a graceful figure emerged from behind. The large boulder, Sithnal, the Nasari elder, moved with fluid steps that seemed to barely touch the ground. Her large eyes held ancient wisdom and a kindness that immediately put the humans at ease. "The prophecies spoke of this day," she said in a voice like wind through leaves. "The day when the water bringers would awaken the sleeping worlds." Lisa felt a connection to the elderly alien that was stronger than what she had experienced with the others. "You've been expecting this?" Sithnal approached the well and knelt beside it, her eyes reflecting the soft glow from the basin. "My people have stories from the old times, before the great wars, before the worlds grew cold and dead. We told of beings who could call water from stone and life from death." The 3 alien species stood around the well with the 4 humans, all of them staring at the flowing water that defied everything they understood about science and nature. Kethvar extended a crystal probe toward the water. "May I analyze this substance? My instruments cannot explain how it appeared or why it supports such rapid biological growth." Amy stepped forward with her own equipment. "We've been studying it for 3 days. The composition keeps changing, adapting to whatever the environment needs." Draktul looked skeptical. "Water does not change itself. Water is water. Simple and constant," but Lisa shook her head. "This isn't ordinary water. Taste it and you'll understand." She cupped some water in her hands and offered it to Kethvar. The crystal being hesitated, then carefully lowered part of his structure to touch the water. As soon as he made contact, his entire body began to glow brighter. "Impossible," he whispered. "I can feel something changing in my consciousness. The water contains information, patterns of thought and emotion." Draktul watched his old rival's transformation with growing interest. "What kind of information?" Kethvar stood up, his crystal form now pulsing with new energy. "Understanding, connection, the ability to sense other forms of consciousness." Intrigued, despite his warrior's caution, Draktul approached the well. Lisa offered him water as well, and he drank deeply. Almost immediately, his aggressive posture softened. He could suddenly sense the thoughts and feelings of everyone around him. "This is not possible," he said, but his voice held wonder instead of denial. "I can feel your minds, your emotions. I can sense the life force of every plant in this valley." Sithnal smiled knowingly. "The water awakens what was always there. It removes the barriers between conscious beings, allowing true understanding." When the Nisari elder drank from the well, her transformation was the most dramatic of all. Her ancient mind, already wise and perceptive, expanded even further. She could sense not just the immediate area, but life forms across vast distances. "There are others coming," she announced. "More humans, drawn by the same instincts that brought you here, and other species as well, from distant worlds, all following the call of the awakening." Lisa felt the truth of her words. The well was just the beginning. Word would spread across the galaxy about the impossible miracle on the dead planet. Everyone would want to understand how it happened, and many would want to experience the transformation for themselves. "What happens now?" Kevin asked, looking around at the group of humans and aliens standing together beside the impossible well. Lisa sensed the answer in her enhanced awareness. "Now we prepare. This planet is about to become the most important place in the galaxy, and we need to make sure that what happens here brings species together instead of driving them apart." The well continued to flow, its waters carrying the promise of transformation to anyone willing to drink. 3 alien species had revealed themselves, and soon many more would follow. The dead planet was becoming a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. 6 months had passed since Lisa first dug the impossible well. The dead planet now had a new name, Haven. Ships from across the galaxy arrived daily, bringing beings from dozens of different species. All of them came for the same reason: to drink from the water that could transform consciousness and break down the barriers. Between minds, Lisa stood on a hill overlooking the valley that had once held only her small team and a hidden well. Now it was a bustling community with buildings designed by multiple species working together. Xanthari crystal structures grew alongside human metal frameworks. Vectal defensive walls protected gardens planted by Nisari wisdom keepers. The architecture itself showed how different peoples could create something beautiful when they combined their strengths. The well still flowed at the center of it all, its glowing basin now surrounded by a beautiful plaza where beings from many worlds gathered to drink and share their experiences. But the water had done something even more remarkable than transform individual minds. It had spread to other locations across the planet. Lisa had been the first to discover this. 3 weeks after the initial contact with the aliens, she had felt a calling to explore other parts of Haven. Following her enhanced intuition, she had led small groups to distant locations where new wells had spontaneously appeared. Each one flowed with the same transformative water. Each one created its own oasis of life in the barren landscape. Kevin had become the chief scientist for what they now called the Haven Project. He worked with research teams from 12 different species, trying to understand how the water appeared and why it had such profound effects on consciousness. Despite all their advanced technology and combined knowledge, the wells remained a beautiful mystery. "We've mapped 47 active wells across the planet," he reported to Lisa during their weekly meeting. "Each one creates a sphere of life about 10 miles across. The biological diversity is incredible. Plants and small animals that shouldn't exist are thriving everywhere the water flows." Amy had evolved from a simple biologist into something like a planetary life coordinator. She worked with teams from every species to catalog and protect the new life forms that appeared around each well. Her enhanced consciousness, boosted by regular drinks from the transformative water, allowed her to communicate with life forms in ways that pure science could never achieve. "The ecosystem is stabilizing," she told Lisa, "but it's not following any known biological patterns. It's like the entire planet is learning how to be alive again, and it's doing it faster than should be possible." Jake had become the head of planetary security, but his job was unlike any security role in galactic history. Instead of protecting against enemies, he coordinated with peacekeepers from dozens of species to maintain harmony among the growing population of Haven. The transformative water had made traditional conflicts almost impossible. Beings who could sense each other's thoughts and emotions found it very difficult to maintain hostility. "We've had 3 minor disputes this week," he reported. One argument between Regelian traders and Betelgeuse miners over water access rights. Another disagreement between human engineers and Altarian architects about building placement. All resolved through mediated consciousness sharing sessions. But the most remarkable transformation had happened to Lisa herself. The water had awakened abilities in her that went far beyond enhanced intuition. She could now sense the presence of every conscious being on the planet. She could feel the flow of life energy through the growing ecosystem. Most importantly, she had become a bridge between species, able to help different forms of consciousness understand each other. The 3 original alien watchers had become her closest advisors and friends. Kethvar now led a research consortium that included the finest minds from across the galaxy. His crystal consciousness, enhanced by the well water, could process information and make connections that amazed even other Zenthari. "The wells are not random," he explained during a planning session. "They appear at points of maximum harmonic resonance with the planet's core energy patterns. But we still cannot predict where the next one will manifest." Draktul had transformed from a warrior into a protector philosopher. His understanding of strength had evolved beyond physical power to encompass the strength that came from unity and cooperation. He led the planetary defense forces, but their purpose was to welcome newcomers and help them integrate into Haven's growing community. 17 new ships arrived today," he reported. "Species I have never seen before. Some come from conflicts in distant sectors seeking the peace that transformation brings. Others come as explorers, hoping to understand how consciousness can be enhanced." Sith now had become something like a spiritual guide for the entire community. Her ancient wisdom, amplified by the well water, helped newcomers adapt to their enhanced consciousness and learn to navigate the complex emotions that came with sensing other minds. "The transformation is not always easy," she explained to a group of newly arrived beings. "When you can feel the thoughts and emotions of others, you must learn to maintain your own identity while respecting theirs. It requires practice and patience." As Haven's reputation spread across the galaxy, it attracted attention from governments and organizations that were not entirely peaceful. Some military forces saw the planet as a potential weapon. If they could control the wells, they could enhance their soldiers' consciousness and create superior warriors. Some corporations wanted to commercialize the water, selling transformation to the highest bidders, but these attempts at exploitation failed consistently. The wells seemed to have their own intelligence, responding only to beings who approached with genuine desire for growth and understanding. Military forces found that their enhanced soldiers could no longer follow orders that caused harm to others. Corporations discovered that the water could not be transported off-planet. It lost its transformative properties the moment it left Haven's atmosphere. The planet is protecting itself, Lisa realized during a meeting with the governing council they had established. Or maybe it's protecting the concept of what we're building here. The council itself was unprecedented in galactic history. Representatives from over 30 species met regularly to make decisions about Haven's development. But instead of the usual political negotiations and compromise, they used consciousness sharing to truly understand each other's perspectives before making choices. Lisa often walked through the growing communities, marveling at what they had built together. Human children played games with young Xanthari crystals, learning mathematics through harmonic resonance. Vectal warriors taught defensive techniques to beings from peaceful species, while learning meditation and emotional control in return. Nisari elders shared stories with teenagers from dozens of worlds, passing on wisdom that transcended cultural boundaries. The most beautiful sight was the original well, where beings from across the galaxy came to drink the transformative water. For the first time, Lisa watched as a proud Andromedan diplomat knelt beside a humble Centauri farmer, both of them experiencing the same wonder as their consciousness expanded. She saw ancient enemies from opposite sides of the galaxy share the water and discover that their conflicts had been based on misunderstandings that melted away with true communication. But Haven was more than just a place of transformation. It had become a model for what galactic civilization could become. Trade agreements were negotiated through consciousness sharing rather than political maneuvering. Scientific discoveries were shared freely between species. Art and culture flowed between worlds as beings learned to appreciate forms of beauty they had never understood before. "We're not changing individual minds anymore," Lisa told Kevin during one of their evening walks beside the original well. "We're changing the entire galaxy's understanding of what's possible when conscious beings work together." Kevin nodded, watching a group of mixed-species engineers working on a new water distribution system. The ripple effects are reaching systems hundreds of light-years away. Ship captains who visited Haven are taking new approaches to conflict resolution back to their home worlds. As the first year of Haven's transformation came to an end, Lisa stood once again beside the well where it all began. The simple hole she had dug following her intuition had become the center of a galactic renaissance. The dead planet had become the most alive world in known space, but she knew this was still just the beginning. Each day brought new species to Haven, new forms of consciousness seeking transformation and understanding. The water continued to flow, the wells continued to appear, and the community continued to grow. The aliens had watched in silence as a human dug a well on a dead planet. They had followed her into a new understanding of what was possible when beings opened their minds to each other. And now, together, they were creating something that none of them could have achieved alone, a world where consciousness itself had become the foundation of civilization. The well flowed on, carrying its gift of transformation to any being willing to drink, and the galaxy would never be the same.